I'd like to start off by asking you, what are some movies you guys are anticipated watching this summer, or any video games?
The Avengers.
The Avengers.
Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter.
Yeah, see, now, those two movies right there, what do they have in common? Violence. And I'm here to prove how media violence is a positive to our society. First off, I want to say that there's a theory that dates back to ancient Greece and the philosopher Aristotle, and it's called the Cathartic Effect, and it states that it suggests that watching violence allows individuals to vicariously release pent-up everyday frustration that might otherwise explode dangerously. So, I mean, I personally, like, if I have a frustrating day at school, I can just go home and throw on Mortal Kombat and rip some spines out, and I'll feel good. And some people might agree. I mean, some people can watch football and they feel good. Boxing matches too. You can watch a boxing match, you'll get really into it. You can even see yourself throwing some air jabs, and you'll just be involved with the program that you're watching. A second supporting claim would have to be that media violence prompts people to socially positive action. For example, back in the 80s, Farrah Fawcett, she played an abused wife in a movie called The Burning Bed that aired on TV. And the movie was about an abused woman who set fire to her sleeping husband. And after this showing, battered spouse centers nationwide were overwhelmed with calls from abused spouses and how they have been putting off actions to stop their abusive mate. And this is the words of Dr. Jane Ballinger, which is a professor on campus. And so basically, some other movies that depict real-life violence would have to be one recent one, the one with Liam Neeson, Taken, that depicts the European sex trafficking. I mean, when I saw that movie, I did not have any intention of going to Europe. I thought I was going to get raped. And same thing with back in the early 90s, Boys in the Hood. That depicted gang violence beautifully. I mean, that's one of my favorite movies. That movie's awesome. And so Boys in the Hood, Taken, and there's another, I believe it's a Canadian film that's coming out. It's called Bully, and it's used to depict how bullying kids is bad, and of course that would show violence. So there's another support towards my claim. And let's see, my third support would have to be probably the biggest, is that media violence helps the general economy. I mean, from the words of Adam Willard, he said that the truth is violent media simply sells better, and what sells better sells more. I mean, obviously we want to see violence, the Avengers. I mean, even in the comic books it's violent. And for example, one of the best-selling video games on the market, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, they reached approximately $1 billion in sales in just 16 days after release. And within 16 days, and that game is still selling today, you can only imagine how big of a sale that is. And that's just based on one video game. Now imagine all the violent video games put together. The economy is really happy, I'm guessing. And let's see. Same thing goes with films and sporting events like pay-per-view, UFC, and boxing matches. Like, I don't know if you guys follow boxing, but I'm really excited to see Pacquiao and Mayweather duke it out in the ring. So I'm definitely going to throw down $60 to watch that, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would. And films too. I went to go see Clash of the Titans. That was violent. I thought it was cool. There's just so many things that involve violence that are all around us, and it's not necessarily a negative effect. I mean, sure, people can say that violence. I mean, I grew up, the first video game I ever played was Mortal Kombat. You know, popped in 25 cents at the time of my life. I never grew up fantasizing about ripping somebody's spine out. So, I grew up fine. There can be other people who had troubled childhoods, but the way I grew up, violence is, I even grew up in a neighborhood that was, gangs were all around, and I would always see violence, and it's just, I believe media violence can be used to show people the truth and not necessarily make them paranoid, but just let them know that, hey, this is going on and we can do something about it. And this is why I think media violence is a positive to our society.
Do you have a copy of the final draft for me? All right, well, you clearly identified the proposition. The phrasing, I think, could be a little bit sharper. There's no setup of the secondary points. There's some controversy, and you explained a little bit of background, although that last, or the one point about the commercial impact of violence, I don't really think there's much controversy on that it's exploited and it generates income or creates jobs, any of those sorts of things. I mean, I'm not sure there's a dispute on that. There might be some dispute about the on-balance impact, and that's one of those things that would require a lot more analysis and research than you've got here. The secondary points are very clearly labeled in the body of the speech. You usually explain what you're talking about there. The proof, I think, is a little bit thin. On the first point, basically, you just have an explanation of the theory without any demonstration that the theory is really solvent or applicable, and the closest we get to an expert on it is Aristotle's reference to those concepts, but that's about it. And then you have the example of the movie, The Burning Bed, and that's okay. I mean, you've got a quote there that talks about the experience, but I don't know how important that experience was. And then you talk about, other movies that have violent elements in them, Taken and Boys in the Hood, and I'm wondering, okay, so these are examples of things that either create catharsis or create a better neighborhood. Sounds like it drove you out of Europe as opposed to, creating economic activity. It might be undermining the argument that you're making here. There's not really any statistical analysis or research on this. We've just got some general personal opinions and some personal examples to illustrate those points. You got one quote on the consumer issue, and it was a pretty good quote, but like I said, I didn't really think that point was going to be very much in dispute. You do a nice job talking to the audience. I'd go ahead and take the hat off, not just turn it around, but at least I appreciate the effort on that. Thank you. All right, thank you all very much for your patience.